Hey guys, this is Hydroseer. I haven't really done one of these types of commentaries before, but I'm going to be commentating my 90% world record in Splatoon 1. This is the first Splatoon game released in May 2015. This world record from Moofish was one of the longest standing in the entire series in terms of like a category. It stood for about 3.5 years, and I was the first person to beat it, and this cemented my pretty much my, what's the word? I can't think of it. It was my final record to get the sweep in the game, pretty much. And I was very happy with this run. It was not perfect, but I put in a ton of attempts. As you can see here, I put in like almost 1,400. I reset quite a bit once I started actually going for the world record. And this is a very optimized category. I'm playing less than 50 seconds off my saw for roughly 51 minutes. And it's a very painful category as well. There's a lot of dumb things that can happen. I took several breaks, but this is still one of my most difficult and proudest accomplishments. Probably in all of my speedrunning, in the entirety of my speedrunning career. So I hope that I can kind of explain what this is about. So I'm not going to be talking a lot during the beginning of this because I'm actually really sick. I didn't speak a lot because I was really sick and I didn't want to throw up at all. Yeah, this tutorial is not very interesting. There's not a lot of strats. There is one strat here that I actually discovered to be faster from another player. His name is Valu. You may have heard of him. This is a pretty short tutorial. Instead of going up the wall here, you can actually go up on the right. That saves half a second if you do that, because the wall is already painted, and going up a ramp is faster than going up a wall. It gives you more speed. But other than that, there's not a lot to talk about here. The two text boxes in the beginning there are dumb of the Japanese language, and I'll kind of explain what that means. But Japanese doesn't save time there. But yeah, pretty good tutorial. Mid 49 is not bad. Yeah, one thing I want to explain is language differences in this game while this intro is kind of happening. In this category, Japanese saves about 36.5 seconds over the course of the run, which is not a lot, but in this intro sequence alone in the first level, it saves about 18 seconds. So it's pretty significant. That's like half of the time save there. If you buffered the triggers here, it activates the news crawl in the first frame possible. That was someone named Michael told me that. He's another
I want to go to bed at like
well-known runner of this game. Turn this down a bit.
For Thanksgiving.
Yeah, this isn't too significant. Japanese is the fastest language for this game. Slowest to fastest is English on the American copy, European Spanish on the PAL copy, and then Japanese. PAL only saves like 8 seconds for this. It's not super big. But languages don't really matter unless you're going for a really optimized time. Here I'm going to touch the gamepad to go to the single player immediately, because that's a lot faster than, you know, going to the kettle in the corner there. We're going to be using the touchpad a couple times in this run. Yeah, this is where a majority of that time save comes from. Like the plaza text box is there, and Captain Cuttlefish speaking, it's much faster, and it makes resets a lot more bearable as well. I won't talk sometimes here just to kind of think of what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna be holding forward here and throwing a bomb immediately to unlock that kettle. If you throw a splat bomb at a kettle, it unlocks after about 2 shots. That's true. This was my favorite world. I don't even know how many times I've reset in World 1. Something you'll kind of notice is that when I fall down from a super jump, I will hold shoot. That's to make sure I can ink the ground as I fall. It's like a tiny time save. Also, sometimes you'll notice is I'm going to be killing like certain enemies.
That would be nice.
And we need about 45 to 50 exiting this level, and then another 50 in the next level to buy a sub-weapon for much later in the run. Nothing too much to explain here. You just gotta kill the enemies to go past each room. Yeah, pretty simplistic move when we do not have the sub-weapon we're gonna buy yet. So we have to paint that wall. It is technically faster to throw a bomb here to destroy the crates, but the problem is that the key is located really high up, and it's very hard to sub-strafe and pick up the key. So right now I have about 44, and in any percent that's actually fine because you get a lot of eggs in the any percent route for level 2, so generally you need 44 to 45 minimum. Yeah, and I have a ton of comparisons there. I don't really know why. There's not a lot of downtime in between these levels. It's pretty fast-paced. Pretty much the same movement there. You just want to throw the bomb and then unlock it. Kill that enemy to paint the ground. And activate that balloon to kill the enemies. One thing I did mention is that another facet to the version I'm playing on the disc version that actually saves time at 80%. I think it's like 8 to 10 seconds, I don't remember. But digital actually loses time in a lot of spots in this game. So if you want to run at a high level, definitely invest in a disc. It's pretty weird. You would think the opposite is true. Pick up that little extra orb there, just in case it doesn't really lose time. Throw the bomb there to destroy the crates. You kind of get the idea of repeating concepts. Painting that wall can be kind of hard. I'm moving pretty fast here because I need to make a global cycle, which is a wall that moves. Even though I can't see it, I have to make a cycle in the very end. It's a trick called Canalus. It's pretty old, but it's still used in runs to this day, and if you can get it on the first cycle, it saves 10 seconds. And if you don't get it, it loses 10. Yeah, bombs are pretty useful for killing enemies, as you saw just there. Kill those octoballs to get more money. I'm doing a very precise jump off this wall, and then going inside a ridge on the wall, and jumping away to paint the wall above it. And that was not the best Canalus. I did not get the best shot RNG possible. Could have been maybe a couple seconds faster. And you notice there, I have the armor. I picked up the armor kind of in the middle of the stage there. And the reason for that is, if you have armor, when you leave a stage, if you don't get damaged, you get a 10 power bonus. That's barely going to give us above 100 to let us buy Seekers. Seekers are kind of like curly bombs for this game, but they have a couple of differences. They have a lot higher, like, startup, like a lot more startup frames, so it costs more time to like use it. So we're not going to be using it everywhere. We're not going to be spamming it.
If I keep streaming, dude, I think I'm gonna hit like.
But it's very useful for this level because we get to use a Seeker here to paint long stretches of ground that don't have ink on them. It's pretty useful. Yeah, from this point on, Seekers are used pretty much everywhere in the run, along with another sub that we're going to buy in World 2. The money routing for that isn't as convoluted just because we have a lot more levels to get 100 power eggs. Overall, this has been a pretty average World 1. I do have a lot of times. I think this is my latest run I'm comparing against, so I don't think it's accurate, but a good World 1 is something under 9 minutes and 55 seconds. Really good as a 9:50-ish. Ink rails are not automatic in this game compared to Splatoon 2, so you actually have to jump out of it, and you don't get any additional speed. The cycle is pretty easy to meet there. Very standard level. Very average. I'm only going to be giving significant commentary when there's information to talk about, and not just super straightforward levels like that. Yeah, I have all this overall movement memorized to a T. I practiced it for many, many hours. You're throwing a Seeker here. The cutscene trigger is pretty far into the map, so you want to throw a Seeker. And the Seeker will also kind of paint a line a little bit before that cutscene ends, so I don't have to paint as much forward. That saves frames. This boss is pretty consistent. The attacks he does do is based on your position. What I just did there, that's a exploit known as RFG or Rapid Fire Glitch. How it works is that you need at least 2 or 3 sub-weapons available. And essentially all you do is just shoot and then mash the D-pad to select your sub-weapons, and it resets the cooldown on your gun, therefore increasing or capping the fire rate of your gun, giving it max damage, even though it's level 1. It gives it a really good base damage value and a high damage value. Yeah, just paint the walls. This can be pretty weird. You have to shoot for a specific amount of time here, so you have enough time to paint the walls. If he does 2 extra steps there, he will jump down a lot later, but the walls will be quicker, so it's pretty hard. And RFG we're going to be using on objects that are staying still, so boss tentacles there. You're going to see me avoid the scroll there. The reason for that is if I leave the level with the scroll, it loses about 2.3 seconds. I have to exit a text box. Let me turn this down a bit. Yeah, if you have the scroll, you have to go out of a text box. It loses a little bit, so we're going to be doing that on bosses 1, 2, and 3. Octavio doesn't matter because the run ends before we, like, right after we finish the level, so it doesn't matter if you get the scroll there or not. But that's roll 1 done. Pretty good. My best is like a 949. But the run doesn't really start until you get to roll 3. And we're going to be kind of going counterclockwise here. And the reason for that is a routing thing that you'll notice. Yeah, again, Seekers are super wonderful here. It's going to let us make a couple of these wall cycles. And these are also global cycles, I believe.
I'm really surprised that.
If you paint that balloon, it will paint the wall, and it lets us get up that ledge a bit faster than going up the right.
In the chat. No.
Also, I didn't notice here, but my audio is slightly delayed, so if it sounds weird, I'm sorry. But I fixed it after this level. Someone in chat told me about it. That's Tone's movement to paint the bottom there. It's pretty consistent, and it's also pretty fast. Pretty hard to get the Seeker here because you have to not hit both walls here, but I get it. Use a visual cue in the 4. You know, right through that bullseye.
Fix that.
This is a pretty weird jump. It's a lot easier in 90% compared to all scrolls, but basically you can jump under that platform in the balloon, and it skips going around there, saves a couple of seconds.
Yeah,
I've definitely reset to that a couple times. Wait, why is it... Oh, I don't know why the video thing is showing. We're going to be unlocking 5 here. This is the last level we're going to play before finding the boss. We're going to be super jumping to that, which is a mechanic I haven't really explained yet because it hasn't been used. But pretty much on the gamepad contains the overall map, and you can super jump to different levels that you have unlocked, because once you unlock a level, the game autosaves and it's permanent. So we use that to our advantage greatly. Throw a bomb here to distract the second enemy, and then it gives us time to kill the third. Pretty minor strat there. It's actually faster up here to go on the left. I didn't know that for a really long time. I always lost 1 second, but it's faster to go on the left versus the right. Don't know why, it's just faster. It's easier to shoot the center geyser here to distract the enemies, but I don't do it here because I just wanted to play it risky. It's a little more consistent to use the gusher. When you're on a gusher, this is the case for both Splatoon games, for most weapons. You want to be on top of the gusher, because if you activate it, then try to ride it, you have to, like, travel up the gusher, but if you're on top of it when it activates, you don't have to travel as much.
Has the best roll 3 exit ever.
like, vertically.
Which is kind of hard to compare against, so I'm not comparing against that.
Yeah, it's a little time save you do everywhere. This is one of the few major glitches in the run. Pretty well-known exploit. It was discovered by a Japanese player known as Beat accidentally. Originally, it uses the Inkzuka, which is the easier variant, but it's slower. We're going to be doing a faster variant with the Splat Bomb.
Does approve.
And pretty much how it works is you want to throw the Splat Bomb and pop that Zapfish bubble, and then let the enemy AI super jump into the Zapfish, and it pretty much ends the level.
Really high.
The reason why that works is the Octoling has the same AI as you do. It has the same amount of programming. So if it touches the Zapfish, it ends the level. That saves about 10 seconds, because normally you have to go around the back there and then ride 2 ink rails to get to the top, and it's really slow. I've also reset to that, even though it's honestly pretty easy.
I forgot this is pretty good.
You reset to quite a bit when you are going for an optimized time. This is the first ink, like, Octostriker level in the run. Basically, the amount of time that you are spent exposing kid form extends this timer for, like, a special that he uses. It's kind of like a nuke, but it's made of ink. It's called an ink strike, and they're pretty easy to avoid. We're gonna be manipulating that off-screen timer later in the run, but it doesn't really matter here. It's just, you know, get to the end as fast as possible. The quickest way to kill this guy is going to the left, and then you throw a bomb behind him to stabilize his position. So I'm gonna throw a bomb here to the right, because if you don't, he's gonna float back, and that's gonna soft lock him, and we can just shoot him. And that's the fastest way to kill him in both NE% and NG+. It's kind of easy to get stuck in the ink rail there. You can get stuck while jumping. I like to go a little bit to the left there. Doesn't really lose a lot of time. I switched to Seekers at the end there for sub-weapon management. We're going to be using it to unlock 6, and then buy the last sub-weapon of the run, Burst Bombs. And again, I didn't mention this, but I'm using the touchscreen to buy these sub-weapons. You can throw a Seeker during that menu. The Seeker, it still exists when you're menuing, so you can do that. Here's a cycle here, which saves 1 second. You can go between those two robots and get a slightly faster cycle there. And Burst Bombs have a lot of different applications to run. They have at least 3 to 4, I believe. That's the first one. You throw the Burst Bomb at the fan, and it actually propels it to max speed. You can kill the enemy there to paint the ground. This is a pretty technical level, but it's not the most technical in the run. We're not going to be using a Burst Bomb here because we want to use it to distract the enemy. Also, it wastes ink. Pretty bad cycle here, but
well, that was one of the
it's kind of random.
insane.
You actually don't want to go in squid form here. You want to walk in kid form, so you're not super close to the fan. That's a big misconception. You want to be as far away from the fan as possible before you jump onto it. That's another skip there. And again, you walk in kid form there, walk up the fan. Another Burst Bomb. And Burst Bombs also have this property where you can throw up to 2 without really going empty, because whenever you shoot or throw a sub-weapon or anything, it wastes ink. It's basically your amount of, like, your resource that you have. You have to maintain it at all times. And Burst Bombs are nice because you can throw, like, again, 2 without really losing a lot of your ink tank. So if I miss the Zapfish there, I can throw another one. Here's another application for Burst Bombs. It instantly inflates these sponges, and again, you activate the sponge while on top. Saves time of having to climb it. Can't really throw a Burst Bomb there, so I'm gonna throw it. That guy can sometimes shoot you. That's a pretty hard cycle to meet because you have to not get shot by either of those enemies, and it's really precise movement. It only saves 1 second. Throw a Burst Bomb up there. I failed this here. Bluefish also does that in his run, funnily enough. We both fail 5. It's kind of a hard jump. These Octoballs can be hard to do optimally. You can let all of them die, but it loses a little bit of time. Optimally, you want to kill all of them within a reasonable amount of time. Burst Bombs are the fastest at spreading ink. So you want to be throwing it at walls. That guy always shoots the sponge. You want to shoot that. This is another trick called Cannonless, but we're going to be just skipping this cannon here. This only saves about 5, though. Burst bombs make that a lot easier. And that's kind of 5. Something I didn't mention there, because it did not happen this run, or at least I don't think it did, is something called Burst Bomb Glitch. Burst Bomb Glitch is this bug. Well, it's more of a bug. The bug, they never really fixed since launch, and all it is, on certain surfaces, when you throw a Burst Bomb or an object, the Burst Bomb has maybe a less than 5% chance to disappear. And that can be very catastrophic for 5, because you could throw a Burst Bomb and then it can just disappear and then you're out of ink and then you'll probably fall and die. I've reset a lot of runs in that stage, but luckily it did not happen this run. Kind of speaking about the pace so far, this is actually pretty decent. I'm pretty much tied with a record coming out of early game, which his early game is not the best ever, but it's very solid. And it's something that I do not match too often. A sub 21 World 2 is very good. So yeah, now you get to see the full extended effects of RFG there. Since we have 3 sub weapons, we're going to be able to match much more efficiently than if we had 2.
I've never been like...
It's going to be a lot faster if we throw the bomb and kill the tentacle from below instead of having to climb it. That saves... I don't know how much time it saves per phase, but it's pretty nice. We can also RFG the last buttons there in each phase. It's optimal to RFG every button, but the problem is that it's really hard to RFG optimally while you're moving due to how the D-pad is location. So I'm only going to be doing it on the last buttons here. So yeah, normally shooting. This is all timing. You want to have enough ink to throw the bomb at the end here and have enough for the RFG, because if you RFG too early, you're not going to be able to shoot. I'm going to wait a bit here when it's done turning. RFG now. And yeah, pretty cut and dry boss fight. The boss fights in this game are not very hard, except the final boss. That is a whole nother beast. And it's also one of the most interesting boss fights probably in the Splatoon series in terms of a speed run.
Okay, this is like a 21 flat.
In Splatoon 2, you spawn very close to the collectibles next to the Zapfish bubbles in these boss fights, so it's very hard to avoid them. But in this game, you spawn very far away from them in pretty much all instances, so we can avoid them without too much cost. Yeah, very good World 2. That's only about, as you can see there, I'm less than 1 second behind the world record, and that World 2 did have some minor time loss. So right now, I'm not thinking too much, just because I'm still sick. I've not talked a lot this run.
World 2 now. It's really nice.
Because I just didn't want to throw up. And World 3 is where the RNG just kind of starts, and where the hard levels actually begin.
I'm gonna go back to...
I would say this is one of the hardest. This is one of the 2 hardest levels in World 3. The other one is at the end. This has a lot of precise ink rail movement and enemy cycles.
11:58, 27.
So yeah, because the ink rails aren't automatic, you can't just jump from them and shoot. You get no added momentum. That tech, unfortunately, does not exist. You use a burst bomb here to activate the ink rail,
Left side jump
and go to the right. It's a minor optimization instead of having to go in the center there. I can throw a splat bomb here to kill the enemy on the left. I should kill him if the power egg spawned. Yes, I got a bunch of power eggs, so that means he died. And then it makes that little queue area a bit faster. I missed the thing there that usually never happens. I got bad RNG there. Also bad ink management. Ink rails are faster for activating, or not ink rails. Burst bombs are faster for activating ink rails, because when you activate an ink rail, there's an initial entry lag. I can throw a Seeker here to kill that enemy early. The key there to killing him is throwing it as early as possible so the Seeker auto-targets, because Seekers also target enemies, and they do a lot more damage than curling, so we use that on certain enemies in the run. That was a very good room, by the way. But yeah, like I was saying, burst bombs. If you can throw a burst bomb in an ink rail, you can throw it from far away, and it is faster, because When you initially activate an ink rail, there's a bit of an entry lag, and you can't enter it immediately, so we throw the burst bomb to eliminate that entry lag and enter it as fast as possible.
Casually getting a 21 flat. Not too bad.
Yeah, I usually lose up to 3 there, so the fact I only lost 1 is very good. But this level coming up, this is one of the first major RNG points in the run, but I have major in quotations because this game does not have a lot of run-ending RNG. The worst kind of RNG you can get in these levels is 5 to 10 seconds. This is a bad pattern here. Normally, he's not on the left there, but I lost about 1 second because he's on the left, so I have to throw the Seeker down there and do a backup strat, but it's fine. The main RNG is going to come in the maze pattern in the very end. I have to get a very specific pattern, or at least a couple of specific patterns. Throw a burst bomb here, skips going on the left. Also, it's a better line because you can just go on the right there. Another little ink rail skip. Burst bombs are used quite a bit in this run. They're very broken. I'll try to explain the maze. So basically, there's several different flutters in that maze up there. I think they're on a global cycle. Essentially, they're always different, but the key guy you have to kill, he's always in the same spot and the same cycle, as long as you don't die. So right now,
That guy's going for left.
the flutters are in a very good spot, and it's faster to go on the right here. I'm gonna kill him. Perfect kill. This is very good. This is perfect RNG besides the first room. So right now I can kind of breathe a sigh of relief. Yeah, either the center or the right there are the fastest options. Pretty much. If you can land on top of Zapfishes, that's also faster because you don't have to swim up to it. It's a really minor thing.
Right side is like 1 second faster than the middle for the maze there.
Yeah, so no time lost there, really. Do a little jump there to get up to the steps for 14 a bit earlier. I've also failed that. I failed a lot of things, if you can't tell. Watching this is very nostalgic. And from this point on, you can skip these cutscenes for the shorter levels. It's pretty nice. The Octane levels are a lot more tame in this game. A lot of their movement can be easily manipulated, and also they're not as aggressive. If you go into kid form there, they will aggro you. So it's very important to keep your Seeker line and keep your speed. It's very important. Here's another little route change, or routing thing. We're going to unlock 13 with 2 different bombs. A burst bomb and a... Currently, a burst bomb and a splat bomb will do it. This is one of my biggest mistakes in the run. I never usually do this, but I pretty much failed the 13 unlock. So I lost about 7 seconds, approximately. I didn't really want to think about it. I didn't want to reset, so I just continued. Here's a little jump found by Valo. You can use the geyser to get on the box there and go up there. It skips walking up the grating. And it's also faster because you can swim. There's another jump which you can do on the left. That's called the true geyser jump. It saves about 2 seconds over the Valo jump. But it's very hard because if you fail it, it loses about 10. And it's right in the middle, like smack dab in the middle of the run. I don't know anyone that goes for it besides Tones Malones, or used to go for it, because he doesn't run this game anymore.
Yeah, I need to keep that spot.
My gold has it.
Yeah, this is good.
But I think if I want to go for 51 OX in the future, I will definitely have to start doing it. So yeah, because I missed that unlock, I have to go back to 14, unlock it again, because the bomb slightly rolled off, only in the good run.
Yep, that really sucks.
And yeah, again, I lost 7 seconds here, so to recuperate the time loss, I have to get a perfect cycle here. So I have to make no movement mistakes. I have to hit every single cycle in this level. If it wasn't for this big mistake of the 13 unlock, this would be a much better run. But your runs can always be perfect.
Also pretty good World 3.
So the burst bombs being the fastest to spreading ink, it's gonna apply here. We're gonna throw 2 burst bombs, kill that enemy here to paint the ground for consistency. Paint those 2 parts of the wall, and that skips going on the left there.
-10 off.
It's very... I'm just going to pause this because I'm going to explain, go further into the burst bomb glitch. So what happened to Moothfish in his world record is he threw the burst bomb here and it disappeared. It's very likely to happen. I never throw a burst bomb here. I only throw a burst bomb when I get up here or past the wall. And because Moonfish missed that one burst bomb throw, he was entirely off cycle for the rest of the level, losing him about 8 seconds. So I vowed to never do it again. Use burst bomb to paint that, and then we're going to climb this once the blocks start moving. Make a very precise jump here to go up that ramp. That's the second precise jump, and here's another one. Well, it's not really a jump, it's more of just a wall climb. It's kind of like Canalus.
121 entering the zap.
Another global cycle we have to meet. Ooh, barely make it. And that was a perfect cycle. I almost fell there, but we clutched it.
6 seconds.
Yeah, it's more like 7, but you get the idea. So I was pacing a pretty good World 3 exit there, but because I lost time there, I'm pacing about even with Moonfish's world record. I end up pulling slightly ahead. I also fell down there. I don't know how much time that loses. I think it only loses about 1 second. I didn't jump there. I had to climb an extra wall.
Really hope that I'm gonna be like even again or something.
This is probably one of the hardest levels in World 3 in my opinion, just because so much can go wrong, especially in the final room. All of these blocks are invisible, but I've kind of memorized where they are due to just months and hours of practice. And because I studied actually good movement and not Moonfish's, I ended up getting the community gold, or CG here, by about 2 seconds. Seeker's very useful for killing enemies there. In New Game Plus, you would throw a couple bombs to kill his enemies, but unfortunately you can't really do that. It's very inconsistent or slower in 90%. Here's a small corner cut, very risky. If you die there, you lose up to 10 seconds, but I started going for it because I just wanted to save that extra bit of time. Another corner cut here to skip the rest of this walkway. You can go right to the platform.
Like a half a second or something, but honestly, I don't even care.
Here's a uber risky strat coming up. I'm gonna skip the checkpoint here because of the line that I'm taking. So if I die here, I respawn at the beginning of the room, losing about 20 seconds. I have to carefully watch if my feet are painted here to do a bunch of those platforming skips.
I only lost like a second falling.
And yeah, really the only mistake was the overall movement. Other than that, it was a very, very good level. So at this point, I'm kind of focusing because this run is still good despite the big mistake. Here's another strategy. And kill your run. I'm gonna throw a burst bomb here and activate the anchor rail midair. That saves 2 seconds, and I basically use the visual cue of Captain Cuttlefish talking, the end of the text box, to know when to jump there. The cutscene trigger is not that far here into the map, so I'm just gonna throw a burst bomb and then go forward. Another movement thing. I'm pretty much not going to talk about this boss fight at all because it's very self-explanatory. All we're going to be doing is just painting the map in specific ways to slow him down and make him expose his tentacle, and then we're going to RFG it. That's pretty much the entire fight, so I'm not going to be talking about it too much. The main thing I'm going to be talking about in the meantime is World 4 skip, which is one of the biggest tricks in this game, probably in the entire Splatoon series. It saves 13 minutes. A lot of cutscenes, especially the introductory cutscene for World 5. In total, I think it saves like 13, 12 and a half. I don't exactly remember, but it's basically this pixel-perfect jump that you have to do. It was discovered by a Super Mario 3D World / Skyward Sword strat hunter named Drillick. He's from Portugal. It was discovered roughly 2 days after launch with a extremely hard method that is not used in runs, but if it was consistent, it would be faster. You do it on the left. But RTA, the RTA method, you do it on the right, and it's a lot easier. In quotations, easier. It is, I would say, besides obviously the early game in level 5, it is one of the biggest run killers in this game because even if you take it in the fastest setup, if you do the fastest setup possible, every time you fail it, you die. And every time you die, you lose 10 seconds. So pretty much at top level, you have to nail it. And I do one of the fastest setups that I personally discovered it saves
Okay, 16
2
cuts
seconds
into-
over... It saves 2 seconds over Moofish's setup. And I don't even stop when I'm on the ledge. I pretty much just go straight forward, and I hope it works. The hard thing about it, too, is that we're forced to use the Wii U gamepad when we're speedrunning.
That's ahead of world record.
And there's no notches, so it's based on your camera angle and what direction you're holding on the control stick. So it's about as precise as you can make it out to be. And I get a very good one here. So much so that I actually end up closing the chat and just entirely focusing.
Let's see, this trick wants to work.
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat concepts I've already explained. Hope I'm not doing too bad of a job of the commentary here. If you die here, you respawn, I think, in World 3 or World 1, so you need to be very careful. You can jump out of the ink rail here a little bit earlier to activate the cutscene. It's a small strat. We're going to be using a burst bomb here to ink the ledge. You have to ink a very specific part of the ledge. It's only a few pixels wide under this death barrier bouncy thing. I'm relying on my crosshair here and not stopping, and I got it first try. Also, if I die here, I respawn at the beginning, so I need also be very careful. Perfect line there. And the quickest level to unlock from this position is level 24. We're going to be using 2 bombs and super jumping to 24, and that's basically the split. Looks really easy, but oh my god, it's much harder. The first, if you ever run this game, you have to learn that. Because if you don't, you're gonna be sorry. Because at the end of the day, this category to high level kind of revolves around that skip, just because of how significant it is. Not too much to say here. This is one of the last really cycle-based stages in the run. The cycle to me at the very end here is extremely easy. You can be... that pinwheel on the left there is pretty much the bottleneck. And you can do a variety of strats here and still be on the correct cycle. But yeah, I was super... I've been on pace in World 5 multiple times. I was even on a God run, so like mid 50-10x pace into the middle of World 5, which I did not mention contains the last RNG split of the run. It's another Flutter level. There's really no reason to pick up that Izuka. It's just in the way we don't use it. When the pinwheel's halfway through that sign, I can go through the center there and go right up. I can also jump in kid form to get more height. These jumps aren't too hard. You want to jump when that thing is off screen, go around, and you can hit the early cycle on this pinwheel on the left side. It's very easy for the ledge to not be panned there.
Oh my god, stop doing that.
Kill that guy so you don't die. And yeah, very cut and dry level. There's not a lot to talk about. Just down a little bit again. I'm gonna bring that out a little bit just to get that perfect amount of distance. Unlock 27 here to super jump to it after 26. I discovered here that it's actually slower to use the Seeker in the second lane. It's actually faster to paint the ground because of how short the floor is, or the stretch of uninked ground. A little shortcut there to get to the right a bit faster. And you can just go right to the end. It's a very, very short stage.
Yeah, this is fine. I can never get to the top of that.
It's pretty hard to reach the top of the Zapfish there. I unfortunately don't end up getting it there. It's about 1 second lost. Now, this is the level... Now, if you remembered in the past, I mentioned we're going to be manipulating the off-screen timer to save a little bit of time, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking very specific movement here. We're actually going to be going slower to go faster. I know, pretty weird, but you'll see why in a bit. So I'm going to be shooting in the air for some amount of time and then throw a burst bomb, and then when that burst bomb touches the balloon, I go back into squid form. It's gonna throw an ink strike behind me, and what that's gonna do is it's gonna put this guy in a correct cycle when he's ink striking, so he doesn't move, and then because he's next to the balloon, I pop a burst bomb at the balloon, and it quick kills the Octostriker. This saves 1 second, but 1 second is 1 second, especially at the level of optimization that this category and game is.
Not gonna mess around. Just gonna do it safely. That's how it works.
This is one of the last unlocks in the run that we do. I also lost one of my best paced runs ever to this, so I was kind of scared of it. I was gonna fail. Kind of bad movement there. You know, throw 2 burst bombs there to unlock that
God, that was
kettle
so
from all the,
I got it. Alright, please.
like all the way in the distance.
Really
It's very easy for the bombs to roll off, especially if you're too far away, and you can notice I kind of messed up the movement there. I was a little bit nervous, just a bit. This is one of the last major RNG splits in the run. This can vary the most. This can vary by 5 seconds on average. At worst, you can get 10. Getting perfect RNG here is very, very rare. I've only seen it happen maybe less than 10 times. Like a good spawn, like a good, obviously the flutters are a bit random here, but the second key guy that you need to kill, he's on top of a flutter, and that flutter can be anywhere in the map. The best spawn is if he's in the center, you can take a line right to the next cage pretty much. And as you can end up seeing here, he is in the perfect position. So that saved quite a bit for my movement mistakes. Yeah, that is 100% optimal.
Thank you.
And you go on the right. Yeah, that never happened, so now I know, like, holy shit, this is it.
Let's fucking go, dude.
Yeah, this is definitely it. From this point on.
Oh my god. Yes.
My gold there is super optimized. This is a bit of a weird unlock. You have to unlock the ink roll when you're falling, and then quickly go back into squid form, and you can unlock these kettles. Something I didn't mention is that Seekers are also very nice for unlocking things that are close to you. All you have to do is throw a Seeker and then 2 shots, and they'll unlock pretty fast. I'm throwing a burst bomb here to distract these 2 Samps, because the weak spot is on its back. A little cool movement there. I don't know how I didn't get killed by that guy. It was really bad RNG. Throwing Seeker here just to activate the sponge from really far away. This is pretty satisfying movement. Throwing 2 Zukas there to activate the rows of sponges. And to ink the spot up there, you actually have to not ledge snap, and it paints the top of that ledge most of the time. Here's a pretty Maka jump. It's kind of like the jump in 7. You jump under that balloon. Little corner cut. Throw something there, skip the balloon, you can go up on the wall. The run actually almost died here. I don't actually know what happened. So pretty much, I got one of the worst cycles there possible with the enemies. I don't know why he threw the bomb so late, because usually they throw it at the same time and then activates, but pretty much as I was climbing this, the second bomb exploded and it deflated the sponge. And I actually lost a couple runs here. Pretty much, I don't know how I survived, because if you see here, I almost died there. I was pretty much almost about to fall, but I just kept spamming jump, and I was able to still climb up. Unfortunately, this lost about, I think, 3 seconds or something. So, you know, Destiny coming in clutch here.
How did I survive that? What?
Yeah, and the run should have died there. So I don't know.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of dumb shit that can happen in this world. I've lost a lot of runs. It is...
This game's trying to cuck me over again.
I would say it's definitely one of the harder worlds, but it's definitely even harder when you're nervous. Here's a little manipulation here. I'm going to throw a splat bomb without jumping. It's going to kill this guy on the left. And then I'm going to kill the guy on the right. That's all positioning based, by the way.
Okay, this is like a 50. This is okay.
And we're going to have sub-weapons here. We're going to have burst bombs selected for the ending, or not the ending, but the beginning of 22. We're going to be seeing the final application of burst bombs, which I don't think are used anywhere else in this run, except this. level,
like, some
I believe.
super shit fucking out there.
I agree, Hyders. Use 0 man. Yeah, pretty much, if you throw a burst bomb at a switch, it instantly activates. So we can do a little platforming skip here to go right up, instead of having to wait for the blocks to turn manually. Very important to pick up that special. We're going to be using it a little bit later on. Painting the ground here to trap the Octoballs, and we're rotating slowly to the left as to not get killed by those enemies. Here's another switch skip. Or not really switch skip, but it skips a switch there on the right. We're gonna be throwing a bomb here very early to hit that switch, so it activates all the blocks early. I don't know how much time that saves, but it's pretty nice. Definitely kind of stressful to land at the end of a run. We use the saving Zuka to kill those enemies really quickly, and we can also use the Zuka if we're fast enough to paint the bottom, or not the bottom, but the floor there. Use burst bombs on all the switches in this level. It's very cool. Those Octoballs can also bounce you off. And if you die, you respawn at the bottom because the checkpoint is at the bottom, I believe. Pop the bubble here to get the key early without getting destroyed by the flutter, because the key is located inside the flutter. And that's basically the run. I am ahead of the world record going into Octavio, and the world record has a bad Octavio, and I'm super consistent at that boss, so I'm going to save time there. It's super consistent. The max I'll lose in Octavio is up to maybe 2 to 3 seconds. It's not a lot. There's pretty much no RNG. It's all skill. Here we're going to super jump to 25. It's the closest to the saucer. And this is where the final part of the run kind of begins. So yeah, even though
I'm not looking at splits until this is over.
Yeah, this is all skill-based. And this is also a pretty short fight in comparison to Splatoon 2, where on average, that boss will take optimally 9 minutes, and on average, 10 to 11. I'll try to explain the skips in this fight to the best of my ability during the next cutscene. Oh, man. Ugh.
Please let this be over, man. Please. Yeah.
Trying to formulate what I want to say before I say it. Yeah, basically, we're not going to be seeing any skips in this stage, or in this phase. There's 5 phases. The skips operate on him shooting 2 fists, like, one at a time. And in this phase, he's only going to be shooting them one at a time. But RFG will be used in this boss fight extensively on these pretty much motionless objects. You know, notice I'm going to be staying still there every time I do it, so I have to make sure that I don't get knocked off randomly by an enemy. All my movement is very not precise. It's very practiced and measured. Try to hit this fist as soon as possible. Get a little jump there. Same thing here, just kind of get close to the edge. The only thing to mention here is that you want to kill the enemies as late as possible to get better cycles, because if you kill these guys too early, they'll actually be coming towards you when you're trying to shoot the subwoofer, which it's also faster to RFG. Yeah, very minor thing, but it has killed a couple of my runs in Phase 1. I don't think anyone talks about that.
I know how to not fuck.
Yeah, pretty much these skips are called cycle skips, and they skip cycles or cycles of him throwing fists and attack animations. And it depends on how much they save. The one here in Phase 2 does not save a lot. This is not a cycle skip, it's just a fist optimization. I'm going to be delaying the fist there, so it's right in front of my face before I send it back. And so when I send the first fist back, the second fist will be in front of my face. Yeah, here's the first instance of it. We're going to be doing something called a fist skip. I have to be mashing extremely fast in a 60 FPS game. And if I get it, I don't have to do a delay, which doesn't really save time. Fist skips don't really save time except in Phase 4. But they make cycle skips significantly easier, so they're very worth learning. And if you're too slow with mashing, you will not get the fist skip, and you will lose time. So because I got the fist skip there, and it pushed them all the way to the back, it triggered the subwoofer phase. And that saves about 10. I'm not sure about the timings for the other ones, so I'm sorry if I'm a bit ignorant in that regard. But overall, the skips in this boss fight save over a minute. So it's very worth learning. You're a beginner. Yeah, and all a fist skip ignores is doing a delay for the second fist, so it's very important. This is one of the harder ones because that's positioning based. If I shot too early, I would have shot the shield, and I would have actually shot the fist. You also have to make sure you're advancing here in the boss fight, because if you don't, if you let him walk forward, if he's I think if he's in front of the third sponge there, he will not go into the correct part of the next phase. Yeah, that was a cycle skip. This is a fist optimization, so same thing. Shooting both fists as quickly as possible, and that saves over roughly 20. So again, push them all the way to the back, and we're going to be starting. And we picked up the Izuku there because we're going to be using it to shoot the subwoofer back as quickly as possible. The subwoofer spawned very, very far away here.
Really slow reactions.
Yeah, I have visual cues for all of those. I have a very good phase 3 segment here. And I have sub-splits in this boss fight just to know where I'm losing time, pretty much. I'm not a fan of... I'm not really a fan of not having sub-splits for this fight. No cycle skip here. This is one of the only fights where you can... Or not the only... This is one of the only phases where you can skip a fist, because we're going to be doing a cycle skip here, and to make it save time, we have to skip a fist, one of the fists there. Pick up the Izuku there. Pick up the Izuku there. We're actually not going to be using that until phase 5. This is a fist skip. I had insane mashing here. I was like on fire. Super fast. Yeah, we can shoot another one, and it's going to push him a lot, almost to the back. And now we have to shoot about, we have to do about 2 more. And that'll be the end of phase 4.
If I get hit here, I have an extra armor, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's very important to have armor here and to save it, because, well, it's important to have it because you'll most likely get hit by the killer whale at the end of this phase, and I lost a run of that before, because if you don't have armor for phase 5 to damage boost, you will die, and it loses 10, and then the run is basically over. So it's very important to manage your armor and save that damage boost. Or have it in case you accidentally damage boost. And for the damage boost at the beginning of phase 5. It's very important. Minor thing in this fight that people don't understand. Fist optimization here. Same thing. Normal RFG. And because we're not using the Izuka, since the subwoofer is pretty close, we're going to be doing RFG. And something I didn't mention is that the only RNG in this fight is the subwoofers. It can go one of 3 directions. It can go center, left, or right. But it doesn't really lose time. It maybe loses half a second at most if you react well enough. But obviously, if you get a straight, it saves the most time. But other than that, it's very consistent. You're seeing right at the edge here and RFGing as soon as possible.
Okay.
And there we go. And that's phase 4. One more phase coming up, and that's the end of the run. And I'll probably just pause my video there and kind of just get my closing thoughts on the run. So yeah, right now, I've been on pace into phase 5 a couple of times. On pace, so I'm gonna be very careful here. So I'm gonna say here, yeah, there's a wall here. You cannot go too far forward, because if you do, if you have a bunch of speed and go into that purple wall, you will die. Yeah, we're gonna fist skip this. It's one of the easiest in this fight. It's very, very easy. You can even do an NG+, it's stat free. Yeah, get extra armor, and then, yeah. And that's pretty much the final cycle skip. And then after this, it's just fist optimizations. A trick here we're going to use extensively is basically manipulating where Octavio sees you. So Octavio basically only sees you when the last spot that you're at. And this is going to make hitting the fists a bit better. So because he kind of knows I'm coming from the right, the left fist is going to be closer. Making sure he's turned to the correct side when you're doing this is a very, very small thing that most people never notice. But yeah, the AI, not the AI thing, but knowing like where you, manipulating where Octavio thinks you are is very useful here because it can be very stressful if you don't know what you're doing. But this is pretty cut and dry. Just make sure you're on the right and don't move too much and just stay hidden. So that's it. That's all the fists. And now we just have subwoofers, and there's about 20 seconds left of the run.
Stay at the middle, that's gonna work.
A really dumb thing here is that it's actually better to get left or right because for some reason, if you're too far forward and if you get the center, you get something called iframes. And what's weird about iframes is that the subwoofer is intangible, meaning you can't hit it. So if you get a center subwoofer and you try to shoot it as early as possible, it'll actually get canceled out. And it's very hard. It's very easy to miss when you don't have the Inkzuka. So I'm kind of weighing the center here, seeing what he's going to give me. If he gives me a right or left, that means I can shoot as early as possible. I've lost 2 seconds to that before. So yeah, right now I'm just kind of gauging where everything is, but yeah, the subwoofers spawn very far away here. So yeah, good RNG. 2 and 3. And then time ends when I send Octavio back into the robot, which the fastest way to do that is you throw a burst bomb into Octavio when you're jumping, and that hits him in the fastest way possible. Yeah, and the pop-up is a bit loud, so I'm just gonna probably mute during that and just let this play. Yeah, and there you go. Yeah, I was going to be pretty loud there. But if you want to watch that for yourself, I'm just going to link this in the description. I'm not going to really get a review my pop-off. It's just a giant speed show. It's very emotional. It's something I'm working towards for many, many months. And I finally did it. You know, I went through a lot of personal turmoil and drama and people thinking I couldn't do it. But, you know, if you really set your mind to something, I think you can do it. And I'm one of many examples of that. I don't really know who to thank. I'd like to thank, obviously, my friends for supporting me, and I took many breaks when grinding this category because it was just so out there. I'd like to thank, who else did I thank in this? Yeah, so I didn't actually get a Japanese disc until earlier that year, in 2020. There's this guy from the Nintendo Homebrew, or no, it wasn't him. So there's a guy from the Nintendo Homebrew Discord. He actually taught me how to unlock my Wii U permanently through Homebrew. I basically modified my system files to permanently unlock my Wii U so I could play out-of-region discs on my American console, because this game does not like to work with Homebrew for some reason. So yeah, I am playing the Japanese disc on my American console. I'd like to thank Mirai for giving me the bits necessary to buy the Japanese disc so I could run this. I'd like to thank Fantasmas for originally showing me how to get a Japanese copy. That's how I originally got the All Scrolls World Record, which Japanese in that category saves about 55 seconds. And, you know, I'd obviously like to thank my community for being a great community. I value all my friends a lot. I'd like to thank the Splatoon community for being mostly nice people. And I like to thank Movefish and Tones. Even though I'm not on the best terms with Movefish, I respect him a lot as a player, and he pushed me to new heights I never thought I would be at. He and Tones were definitely a legend at this game, or legends at this game, and I hope that, or not I hope, but I'm glad that I was able to finally reach their ranks and actually surpass them. Because I do have every world record for every category in this game, as well as every individual level. Who knows, maybe someone might try to beat me in the future, but I highly doubt it. This is definitely one of the most inactive Splatoon speed games. The last thing I like to say is that I like to thank myself, obviously, for never giving up on my dream. And, you know, your dreams don't die unless you give up on them. But yeah, I don't really know what else I want to say? If you have any questions, obviously, like, I was kind of rushing through a lot of this because I didn't want to pause it too much and explain things. I tend to do that. If you have any questions about this category or whatever, any tiny optimization or strat, feel free to post in the comments below or ask me on Discord, or ask me on my Twitch. I try to stream every day. But yeah, I will see you all later, and thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.